far away did she go as the wind blew by and told us all that we know. So I'll tell the story of our son. Oh, let me know if you hear. See if I were a ghost flying far away, I'd never seem to fear, seem to know. I seem to know. Hallelujah, Son, hallelujah, hallelujah, Son, hallelujah, hallelujah, Son, hallelujah.
Hello, everyone. Last week we spoke about the artist Jesus Morales, and one of his sculptures was musical, and that really got me started thinking about how music can often be a really big influence to various visual artists. And so today we have Eric Adams, who's a Lamar Department of Art and Design alum. He's going to be talking with us today, and he's actually an experienced musician. How many instruments do you play?
I really played just like one well, and then the others I can make things happen.
Okay.
I can make sounds happen, but really just guitar. But piano
Okay.
has always been something that I can kind of make work.
All right. Well, Eric's going to be talking with us about his experience with music and photography and other creative pursuits. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah,
How are you doing today?
I'm great. That was a wonderful intro.
Thank you.
That's what they say on these things. Well,
Yeah.
That's such a great intro.
All right. So we'll get started a little bit about you. What year did you graduate again? I think it was 2016.
2016. Yeah, I have no idea.
We'll go with that.
It is so bad. I really don't know. Like, I try to think about that. I think it was 2016, maybe 2017.
I think it was
I
it was like 2015 or 16. It was one of those.
When did I get married? That was 5 years ago.
Well, don't let Kaylee see this because
4, 3, 2,
she'll be
1.
offended.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's been a minute, a grip. But yeah, I think 2015, 16 sounds right.
All right. So what have you been up to since then? What have you been working on recently?
Recently, it's been a track back into music. So, I did a lot of photography and photograms while I was studying studio art.
Mm-hmm.
And then I no longer had a really nice dark room to work in. And so I for a while worked in a dark room out of a trailer park, and that worked out okay. But it was we found a snake in there in the bathroom once, and I just didn't go back. I kind of took this weird break from photography, and but to keep that brain moving and keep something going, I started recording some songs that I'd been writing, and that kind of it all. Again, we'll talk more, but that sort of translated, and so now I'm working on another record, and with that comes with a whole bunch of different art forms, making, merch for it, or album designs, album art, all that stuff. But really it's just been like songwriting and recording music has been the main focus currently.
How would you say that your like musical pursuits influence your visual art and vice versa?
I think that, so in high school, we got a computer that could record music, and I became obsessed with that. And I loved making videos. That was the class that got that computer, my AV class. And so, but songwriting, you know, you just fall in love with Bob Dylan and the Velvet Underground and all those things. Oh, I want to be a songwriter. I want to be that thing.
Mhm.
And then I went to school for recording music and didn't really enjoy recording musicians. I thought, oh, I don't know. And I didn't really understand what everybody would talk about stuff outside. And I didn't really, you know, it wasn't really my tribe. And so I finished that program. And then whenever I went to studio art is where, you know, I found the people that I belonged with. And photography was everything. And so for me, you know, music to photography, like how does music inspire photography? I would probably say, for me, like music, it's like this whole ensemble. It's the melody mixed in with the personality, the air coming out of someone's lungs. Those things paint these stories that, as a photographer, I've always just really done my best to 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 be honest and to take photographs of things that could feel like their own little story when you walk up to it, and has all these different things happening. um and so and titling photographs, and those like that really clicked for me, like just at like titling songs growing
Right.
up. Like you get to just be so mysterious. You can
I never
say,
really understand artists who spend all of this time working on something and then they can't think of a name and just say untitled. And
yeah,
it's like, really?
I
You just spent all this
it's
time.
it's arguably like one of my favorite parts is like it's and I've I think that like you just have this nice opportunity like inform a viewer just so little, like so much,
Hmm.
and then they get to come up with, you know, uh their own interpretation of what you said, you know. And so titling and song title, like titling a song or even writing a song, those things go together. um and then I guess, like, how does photography influence music? I would say it's more of like how studio art and going to Lamar and studying under Prince and Keith, um and how they, you know, they taught me how to tell a story, and taught me how to um be a professional in the sense, like how to do that in a professional way. And um I just love the idea that they're sort of the same thing, like or they can be, they're not, right, like, but they can be. um and I have this like lovely breakdown, so I want to go through it. I'm going to try to do it, and I will probably mess it up, but here it goes. So I want to compare real quick making photographs in the dark room and recording a song,
Okay.
or recording a record. How about that? We'll go there. So whenever you when you write a song, it's the same thing as taking a picture. Like, you are taking this moment. For me, I try to write songs where I don't sit and overthink the words. I usually just have a melody, and I put voice memos on and just record whatever comes out, and then go back and write it. Sometimes it's great and I don't have to touch it. Sometimes I have to touch it a lot. But that, I like to try to get like the subconscious out. Like, just like, here it is. Here's what I was, you know, feeling in my brain. And that's the same as taking pictures. You just are out there and exposed. And you know, if you're doing something intentional, like you're putting a model or something, then maybe you're writing it more. But every once in a while, a kid will ride away, you know, on their bicycle, and you get this nice moment that would have never, you know, you couldn't overthink that. So that's, you know, you're writing a song, you're taking a picture, and then you go to develop it. Like, you go to develop that film, and that's the same thing as recording. Like, you're in this process. You don't really know what it's going to sound like, but you give it, you go. You have a microphone in your face, and then you just record the song. Same thing with developing. You're in a dark room. You just hope that whatever you did works. that it didn't just sound good on your iPhone. And then so once you record, then you've got to mix and you've got to add stuff to it. And that's if in the darkroom, dodging and burning, like you then take your image, your negative, and you shine it onto a piece of paper, and you just make sure that you can add drama to it. You can make it darker, you can vignette, you can do all these different things to give it more than what it was. And that's like when you write a song, you put a guitar in your vocals, you're done. But then let's add piano, let's add drums, let's add these other things. Okay, and so then you go to print it. But what I'll say is, like, when you develop the picture and you're like, now you're processing it, you're making a print. It's the same as like balancing that track. So you've done your thing. You put it on a file and you move on to the next photograph or the next song. Okay, and so then what I think comes next is you have all these photographs, and you start to frame them, right? And then you put them in a gallery, and you start to come up with an order. Like how does a person walk in to the gallery to see the show for the first time?
Right.
And that's one of my favorite parts of making a record is you then have 10 songs or 12 or whatever, 8. And it's like the order. How do these songs fit from top to finish? How does the story flow from the beginning to the end? And then you have a show. I don't play music live, maybe one day, but I really have not found that to be enjoyable. But I do share it on the internet, and I get a lot of enjoyment from the feedback from that. The idea that when you're finished with the order of the album, you then release it, and that's the same as having an opening and having people come in and see it and experience it. And so I see those two things as being the same. And I will say that going to school for photography made me a much better musician, like a much better, like anybody can learn how to play some chords on a guitar, and I really believe that. You just might not be good at it, but you can you can do it. But once I went to school for it, it was like art's not school for music, but school for photography and studio art. It finally clicked in my brain. Oh, I can tell a story. I can still make art. I can still do it. But now I have all these new tools and things that I've learned from Keith and Prince, and do some shout outs later, but yeah.
That's really interesting. I think that's really interesting that you said that, because there are a lot of people who are just visual thinkers. And so they see things in pictures or like in movie.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that just tends to click better for them. So that's pretty cool that you kind of came to that like conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be just like the comparison of analog recording in film development. Me and Keith were talking a lot about how similar taking photographs in the darkroom or using film is whenever you take a photograph and you make a print in the darkroom, there is a visual difference between a digital print.
Right.
There just is. Like you can see a silver gelatin print, go, that's a dark, that was made with the film, with the film process. It's the same as like listening to old music. Whenever it's recorded on physical, tangible, smelly object. Yeah. Like these pieces of tape and magnets and like magic, that it's the same like kind of alchemy. I'm sorry, Keith, I used your word. It's the same kind of like it's the same kind of
pop.
Yeah, it's just this like there is a warmth to a record made on tape. It's the same warmth that you see when you see a silver gelatin print. It's the same in my brain. It's the same thing. In everyone's brain, it's the same thing. Just don't know it.
So my next question was, who are your biggest like inspirations, both musically and like visual art wise? I know that's a big question.
No, I have a pretty large ego, and so I sometimes think about being asked that question. So, uh, no, let's see. Musically, I this might be a cheat or a cliche, or I don't know what, but I grew up around like some really talented musicians and songwriters. And so growing up, like, yeah, like the Beatles, my mom would play the cassette and we would sing along. And then, that whole like myth behind, or like the mythology behind Paul McCartney and John Lennon was huge as
Yeah.
a kid. And then whenever I got into high school, I got really into Dylan, just
Hmm.
really into like the aesthetic of Dylan
Hmm.
and the like typewriters, 65 cigarettes and the curly messy
You
hair,
were a
suit
beatnik.
jackets. Yes, I was a beatnik. I tried. I probably wasn't. But so I fell in love with that. And then as time goes on, like Neil Young is just a prolific
Oh, okay.
songwriter.
Sorry. I'm a really big Neil Young fan. So
Yeah. Uh, what is that? The line,
when I grow up, I'm going to play guitar real big.
not that one. No. Something about like I can't. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to ruin it. But colliding with the very air that she breathes, um, is a line that he wrote that me and my friends are just like, what? Who? How did he do that? And so jealous. But so Neil Young is like, I mean, huge. I love the Velvet Underground growing up, like that. Those are very influential to me. Iron and Wine, the list goes on and on.
Hmm.
But uh, but to be honest, like what makes, like what would, like or at least what I think the influences I hear from my music would be from Tommy Reed and Hannah Reed, which are two locals in Silsbee. Hannah Reed's in a band called Lamelda. Tommy has been in several different bands, but currently has a recording studio in Silsbee called Lazy Bones Audio. Woo woo. And it's a really beautiful place, and they've made some beautiful records. One's, I don't even know what orientation. One's right there, called Hannah, that they just released. It's so pretty. But those two people, like the their songwriting ability is, and not just lyrically, but like melodically, like
Hmm.
the way that they layer instrumentation on top of each other. As a kid, whenever we would go play at the Logon and it was their time to play, I just remember like the room, even though the Logon is always noisy, would quiet down, and I could just like hear them. And so they've always been, I mean, I can't, like, they are probably the main influence they've been consistently influential to music for me. Photography, like studio art, uh, I love me some Emmett Gowan, and Sally Mann. I love Jeff Wall. I really love the concept of like recreating moments with photography. Um, but I also love the abstract expressionism movement. I remember taking I forget what class, but I remember like the thought of removing your brain, like just removing your consciousness and letting the thing inside of you do the job, and spending 4 or 5 hours doing this slow process, like that is super influential in the work that I make. And whenever I started doing photogram stuff, I really wanted to channel that, where it's just, you know, what? I'm gonna throw water on. I just spent 1 hour taping up 16 sheets of paper in the dark room on a wall. I'm gonna ruin it real quick by throwing water on it, hopefully I didn't splash too much. Hopefully the composition works out, and but it's not me thinking. It's just this, like, you spend an hour on the ground taping these pieces of paper together, and your brain moves away. It just goes away. And so I love abstract expressionism, and I love all of it. Like, I don't hate any of it. I totally clicks with me, and I'm always impressed with that. Also, Terrence Malick, filmmaker. Terrence Malick, homeboy. Not really, but I would love for him to be my homeboy. John Prine. Okay, I just can't. There's too many people. John Prine is like a new one for me. This is music now. John Prine is this guy. Go listen to John Prine. He passed away of COVID like at the beginning. It was
That's
really
sad.
rough for all of us. And what's even more sad is I've only been listening to him for maybe 2 years. I just found John Prine, and his work, his songwriting also is just it's the what's that? I don't know. It's just that. Like it's unbelievable. If you like Neil Young, listen to John Prine.
We'll move on to the last question, which is a good one. But yeah, so tell us about some of your creative projects right now, because I know you're working on putting together an album, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I'm very lucky. I don't know how, but I tricked my friend who built a recording studio to just take all my artwork, like a lot of my artwork, as exchange for session time, and also asked him to be in the band. And so Tommy and I, like for the past 3 years, I've been teaching now for 3 years, and to cope with that new world and that new, like, whatever it is, like I had a really sweet lunch break. I've had a really sweet lunch lining up with my conference period, so it's this really long break I get. And so I would just sit in my classroom, turn the lights off, put a lamp on, and record music on GarageBand. And so I would take these songs that I've been writing on my phone and then record them on GarageBand and create these really cool. They have a virtual drummer, and so it's been like inspiring to like make songs that have drums with it.
Yeah.
And so for the past 3 years, I've been just writing stuff. I've been writing songs that are loosely based on like my memories of growing up on the Acre. Um, and so excuse me. And so I guess like a month ago, I was able to get Hannah and our friend Cody Green, who's a cellist, to come down and spend the weekend. And he's also a piano player and probably does a lot of other
Cello is
things.
my favorite. The cello is my
Um,
absolute favorite.
yeah, it's so good.
It's just the best.
It's so nice. And so we knocked out 4 songs in 2 days, and then me and Tommy have recorded a couple others, individually. This weekend we're going to record some more, and so hopefully I've been working on this for 3 years kind of, and so I'm not really in a rush. I'm not like on a label. There's no pressure like at all. Like it's just, for me, I have recently gotten a dark room at the school where I teach, and so I'm back in there a little bit, and I've been doing some color film stuff for the first time ever, and so I am still photographing. I'm photographing more than I had been in the past 3 years, but those 3 years without a dark room, I needed to exercise my brain. Yeah, like it's like a muscle. It's like you gotta get it going, and so um it's kind of all coming to a close. Like I'm developing the prints right now, and then I'm about to start framing them, and I'm making music videos. So I mean, it's, again, there's no pressure to do this. So we'll record this stuff. I've been trying to do stop motion animation. I've got like a little drawing pad, and I've been having a lot of fun learning that. Just doing like simple line drawings of a dress like moving around and flying eventually to space. And so I want, when we release the record, I want to try to have as much video content possible, and then we'll just see. Again, like I'll probably just sell it on the internet, and people can have it. I don't think I'm gonna make a bunch of CDs this time. It's really expensive. Last time I did that, but who knows? I think this is a little off track, but I'll say this. and I'll say it forever. But um, I remember I sat down with Keith once and I asked him, when does it all happen? Like, when does this stuff happen? Like, and he told me, well, you have till you're 29, 30 to fuck it. Like, you can just do whatever you want. Like, you just don't worry about it. And then that mixed in with like then researching like all the art that I love, the artists really didn't make it until like they were 40, 50. So I don't know, they were much older. And it gave me this like released the pressure of like the hustle and bustle of getting into galleries and
Right.
the same thing with music, like trying to like go play shows and do stuff. Like, look, that's not really, I just want to make stuff. And hopefully one day I will have made a bunch of things that people will recognize and start purchasing. Uh, but I don't care. Like, I have a job. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm like having fun making it. And, when you get rid of that stress, I think for me, at least, it's been a great time just making stuff and not being too worried about deadlines. Because the only deadline is death. Like, all that other stuff is just temporary, like, hopefully one day. But
Yeah.
the band, my band name is Acre Memos. I probably should have said that. It's fine. You can check me out on Spotify. I got 27 monthly listeners. Hit me up.
Okay, well, thanks for chatting with me and with everyone eventually today.
Thank you for having me. I love Lamar. Have a good one. Take it easy.
Okay, you too. Bye. Thanks again.
Bye. You're welcome.